You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
So happy to have you back. Thank you for joining me today on our second Cabral HouseCall of the weekend, where we are going to dive into our community's questions. We're going to answer everything related to health, wellness, weight loss, anti-aging, nutrition, exercise, you name it. Everything is fair game. Really excited about that. Hopefully you tuned in yesterday. Yesterday's show notes and podcast are at stephencabral.com/729. And today, all the questions, all the links, all the notes will be at stephencabral.com/730. 730. That is today's show. I want to get right into it today because I want to be able to really get through a lot of your questions. I know we're a few weeks behind, as always, of course. But, you know, the show always goes on, and I'm always going to be able to hopefully answer those questions that you write in with. And as I said yesterday, I'll continue to repeat on the weekends that, you know, if you want same-day answers Monday through Friday, go to cabralsupportgroup.com, cabralsupportgroup.com. It is a link to a free Facebook group, and my health coaches and myself answer questions there each and every day from the community. It's a bunch of positive people, like-minded, really just trying to do the best for themselves, their family, their loved ones. Maybe a question on what lab to run, which supplement to use. You know, you might just feel stuck or you want a little support if you're on the Dr. Ball detox. That is what we're here for. We'd be happy to help. So now let's get into today's show. The first question today is from Lisa. Lisa's asking, "Hi, Dr. Ball. I'm 48 years old, about 175 pounds. I'm always bloated, but I eat healthy. My upper right stomach area is more bloated and distended than the left. My doctor isn't concerned because of how long it's been like that. Assuming it's from the 4 C-sections I've had in the past, I always feel bloated. I know that stress has me producing cortisol based on my own research. Should I try an elimination diet?" Okay, so I'm not sure that this has anything to do with your C-sections. It could, but when we're looking at a C-section, we're looking at cutting specific muscles that don't really have to do with digestion. So what your doctor may not just really know or have a background in is that the ileocecal valve is right there. So that's essentially where the small intestine empties into the large intestine. And so the first part of the large intestine, also called the colon, is the cecum. Now the cecum, it has a difficult job to do. So it has a job that has to move uphill on the right side. So basically, if you go inside of your right hip bone, called that iliac crest, and you travel up to your rib cage, basically where kind of like the liver is, right above that belly button to the right, well, that is the first part of your colon called the ascending colon. And believe it or not, you have to go against gravity. You actually need to move uphill with that stool. So what happens is there can get a lot of blockage there because of a lack of what's called peristaltic movements or peristalsis or intussuscession. And that means that because of stress, maybe like you just said yourself, maybe you're producing high cortisol, that you're lacking that movement. So, and the other thing is too, you could just simply have bacterial overgrowth in your gut, or you might have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or candida. And that means you're eating healthy, but you're eating foods such as maybe cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, and you're eating other cruciferous vegetables, or you're eating certain fruits that also can be fermented in the gut. And so if you run an organic acids test, certainly you'll figure out if you have candida overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth. And then you can certainly do the Dr. Ball detox, the 21-day Dr. Ball detox, which is a full elimination-based diet, and see if that helps. So that's to look at food-based, and that's to look at candida and bacterial overgrowth. If it's a peristaltic-based issue, well, you can look at stress by running an adrenal hormone test. That would certainly look at it, or even a hair tissue mineral analysis. Using something like the full spectrum magnesium would help relax the body as well, or the adrenal soothe. All of those would help. So hopefully that kind of gets you in the right mindset. You can do the lab test first with the organic acids test, and then you might want to do a hair tissue mineral analysis, or an adrenal hormone test for those cortisol levels. Hopefully that helps and you'll be on your path. All right, Joanna's up next. Joana writes in, Dear Dr. Cabral, I've been listening and reading the information that you have been giving in your podcast and in your site for a week now. You have a lot of great information. Probably you have talked about this before, but I still didn't find it. My question is, if you had a friend who is studying to be a functional or integrative health coach or doctor, which 5 books would you give her as a present? Thank you so much for all that you do. I hope this question is of interest to you. So, Joanna, I'm happy to answer that. I've actually answered this a few times in the past, but what I'd like to do is maybe give you some different looks today, all right? So the first thing, if they're a health coach, nutritionist, personal trainer, or they're a doctor, but they haven't really studied functional medicine, a really nice first book to read is called The Disease Delusion. The Disease Delusion is by Dr. Jeffrey Bland. And The Disease Delusion, I think I've actually reviewed that in the past. That's a good book just on kind of like what is functional medicine in general. And Dr. Bland was really one of the forefathers, I don't even know if that's the right term, but one of the founders of functional medicine, at least, in the modern age. So I studied at the institute that essentially he founded, which is the Institute for Functional Medicine. And then so my next book would be the textbook on functional medicine by the Institute for Functional Medicine. So that's an amazing one. I recommend Disease Delusion to kind of figure out what all of this is. Then the textbook on functional medicine. Another great book to read is The Blue Zones. Like if you haven't read The Blue Zones yet, you should really understand what the longest lived people, the healthiest people in the world do without all this fancy medicine in the first place. And I've talked about The Blue Zones before as well. So many great books after that. That's when I would start to get a little bit more kind of nitty gritty. Like, do they want to learn about children's health? Do they want to learn about a paleo diet? Do they want to learn about a vegan diet? Do they want to learn about an anti-inflammatory based diet? So you can really start to get into it from there. But at least start with those first 3 books. That'll keep them busy for a month or so. All right. Hopefully that helps, Joanna. Lewis is up next. Dr. Ball, I heard you on the Jason Ferrugia podcast. I was very impressed with how intuitive you were regarding ectomorphs, training, etc. It really struck a chord with me. That being said, I'm actually writing on behalf of my father. He suffers from extremely low platelet count and suffers from something called MDS. I was just wondering if you had any suggestions on how we can naturally raise his platelet count and be reached at the email address provided. Thank you very much. All right, so Lewis, I hope you're going to get this. All of the answers are actually answered right here on the podcast. So we don't notify you when your question's been answered just because we don't have a team of 30 people who are able to integrate all of this. It's just, if you ask a question, I hope that you're tuning into the podcast on a weekly basis, at least for the house calls, to see if your question's going to be answered. And obviously, you can check back at stephencabral.com/podcasts. You can even type in your name to see if it's been answered as well, but try to stay tuned for that. Okay, so let's get your question answered. So let's start with I believe the first thing you mentioned was extremely low platelet count. Well, that's something called thrombocytopenia, or just low thrombocytes. And that's essentially what we're doing to make platelets. Now, the interesting thing and that can lead to bruising and other issues, of course, as well. But it goes right along with MDS. And MDS is essentially a lack of the ability to create these red blood cells. Now, from a natural-based perspective, we know there's a lot of things that are going to be detrimental to your father's health. Things like aspirin and alcohol, certain medications, heavy metals, being on things like acid reducers. And the reason is that a lot of what we know that helps to create healthy red blood cells in bone marrow, as well as platelets, are actually B12, B6, folate, zinc, vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, copper, okay? So you need those, all the things that I just mentioned, well, in order to build up your red blood cell count, but also in order to get enough oxygen inside the cells. So we have to look at a few things. We need to look at, why is the body dysfunctioning this way? It could be an autoimmune-based disease, and I say dis-ease, meaning like we know that 90% of all autoimmune-based issues are also gut-based. So the first thing we want your dad to do is run an organic acids test to look at gut function. We already have the blood work, so he doesn't need to do that. And then we'd also probably want to run a hair tissue mineral analysis. And we want to look at heavy metals. Heavy metals such as, again, like this is going to be in one of my upcoming book, talking about how I help someone with really dramatic, life-threatening health issues. And I just really kept peering through, like, what can this be? What can this be? What can this be? And then I looked into the health history and I said, okay, this person works for the city. They work for the water department. They work in like under the ground where there's water. and they were exposed to lead. And the heavy metals of the lead, which no one tested for, was causing this person to really look like they had cancer, but there wasn't enough changes that I saw for it to be a true cancer. So this is what I found, and so I just want to make sure your dad doesn't have heavy metals as well. His PCP or doctor can run a lead test, mercury test, aluminum test if he wants. Maybe they'll even run an organic acids test, or he can run the hair tissue mineral analysis through us as well as the organic acids test through us. That's completely your choice. But of course, your dad should get help on both sides of the spectrum, probably through a natural health practitioner, maybe in your area, or us, totally up to you, as well as specialists in this particular case. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Great question, by the way. So next up is Alex. Alex is writing in. Hello, Dr. Ball. I've been a big fan of the podcast for some time now. Been in your Boston office for a massage and infrared sauna. I've done your 7-day Dr. Ball detox. Follow your recommendations. I'm 90% vegetarian. Do not take any medications. Take biotin, ashwagandha, vitamin D, magnesium, and valerian root at night. About 6 to 7 weeks ago, I noticed a big, bright pink spot under my arm. Within the next 2 weeks, similar but smaller spots appeared on my chest, stomach, and upper legs. There are also multiple smaller spots surrounding the joints. Let's see what else is going on, just because I'm probably going to ad-lib some of this question here. Went to see the dermatologist, looked at it as pityriasis rosea, and gave me some cortisol cream. I've not picked up the prescription from the pharmacy, Googled it, usually go away on 8 to 10 weeks on its own. I've not seen any improvement. Can you recommend any treatment? Okay, yes, let's give you some natural-based remedies for that. Okay, so Alex, we, as in me, actually answered this question specifically on your condition on episode 505. So why don't I do this? I'm just going to link it up. I already answered it on the house call there, and it will tell you to look at specifically, even looking at the valerian root, which is in the ragweed-based family, as a potential food sensitivity. So what we typically do is we're going to recommend doing either a rotation diet, elimination-based diet, food sensitivity test, or remove the supplements from your diet for approximately 1 week, maybe 2 weeks. If it starts to clear up, it could be one of the herbs that you're taking, and because herbs are food, right? So it could be a food sensitivity. But also tune into that whole show, because it's gonna teach you a lot more about it than just food-based sensitivities. So that's show 505. Again, just go to stephencabral.com/730, and I'll link up that show today. All right, next question is from Brian. Brian writes in, Hi, Dr. Ball. I have a paroxysmal atrial fibrillation and have been put on a beta blocker to help control the symptoms. My goal is to not be on medication for my whole life, as I'm only 32. Other than losing weight, what are suggestions from a naturopathic point of view to help with this abnormal sinus rhythm? Thank you for your help, Brian. Okay, Brian, this is actually important. You can actually look this up on your own after I talk about it a little bit. So oftentimes you'll find that, and again, you can run a hair tissue mineral analysis for this. So again, hair tissue mineral analysis. A lot of people have what's called a functional irregularity or infunctional ratio between calcium and magnesium. And at the same time, they have a inverse ratio of sodium to potassium. So in a hair tissue mineral analysis, we can actually see if you are magnesium deficient, which can actually cause these atrial fibrillations. And again, you're welcome to look that up. Look at magnesium deficiency and atrial fibrillation, or just AFib. And you can also look at sodium-potassium irregularity in AFib as well. So what am I recommending? Well, I'm recommending you can run the hair tissue mineral analysis to actually confirm and look at, okay, I have low levels of magnesium. Or you can start using a product called full spectrum magnesium. And again, if you just say, well, I don't want to take the magnesium without the calcium, you can take a product called Cal Mag Complete. Typically, we're starting out with about 8 to 12 weeks of a product called full spectrum magnesium. You can even just start at 1 capsule at each meal 3 times a day. And then after 12 weeks, move over to the Cal Mag Complete if you would like. Now, in terms of the potassium and sodium, it's a little easier. You're going to use something like the Daily Nutritional Support, which is our all-in-one support powder. But you can also use something like the Daily Fruit and Vegetable Blend. What does that do? Why does it matter? Well, the Daily Fruit and Vegetable Blend is extremely high in potassium. Why? Because it's 22 organic fruits and vegetables. So you get all of the potassium from nature. Now, you can add a little bit of sea salt to that. By adding the sea salt, you're going to bring your electrolyte levels back up. It's going to improve your energy and very well could improve your AFib. So check that out, and I believe that's the best and first place to get started. Of course, there are other areas to look at, such as, again, heavy metals. Heavy metals can lead to AFib, so you might want to check that as well. Mercury and aluminum leading to AFib. Again, but a hair tissue analysis, the same exact thing, will show you about those elevated levels. If you don't want to run the test, well, then you can do the supplement recommendations I just spoke about, as well as doing the heavy metal detox. All right, I think that was a pretty sufficient answer for right now. So let's move on to the next question. Anonymous writes in, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. So glad I found your podcast and appreciate everything you do. I've been battling gas, bloating, and constipation for years, and I was recently diagnosed with SIBO. For people who don't know what SIBO is, by the way, it's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And you're like, oh, well, what does that mean? Well, just like it sounds, literally. That's why there's not a disease state. Okay, let's go through this. SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Well, what does it mean? What disease is this? Well, it's just bacterial overgrowth in your small intestine. That's what it is. So now let's go to the rest of this question. I listened to episode 544 on monomeals, and you mentioned that you advise people with weak digestive systems to eat salads, but the Candida protocol recommends a diet high in vegetables. What is the best course of action for the Candida protocol? Cooked over raw vegetables, stay away from veggies altogether. Thank you. So, well, here's the thing. I think there's just maybe a mistypo in this or a miscommunication. We don't recommend big salads on the Candida protocol. And the Candida protocol actually gives you the exact vegetables to eat. So I'm not sure if you have our Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. It's called the CBO protocol. I'm going to link it up today. Again, if you know you have SIBO, then you don't really need to run the organic acids test, right? If you've already been diagnosed with it, then just save your money and do the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. The CBO protocol actually gives you the exact proteins, the exact fats, and the exact carbohydrates that you can eat that will not feed bacterial overgrowth in your gut and Candida overgrowth, because most likely you have some of that if you have SIBO. So, well, in the beginning, yes, it's best to eat easily digestible meals. So what does that mean? Well, cooked vegetables are much easier to digest than raw vegetables. And yes, raw vegetables can contain a lot of nutrition and natural enzymes. But when your digestive system is weak, we recommend using something called a daily digestive enzyme with whole food meals. We recommend a smoothie in the morning with the acceptable fruits and veggies, and you're blending everything. And then as your digestive system gets stronger over 3 to 4 weeks, you can start to add back in maybe some acceptable grains, adding a little bit of more starch from root vegetables. And then you're also going to then start to try some easier to digest vegetables. And those would be the non-cruciferous ones. We're still going to cook the cruciferous vegetables, such as the broccoli. So yeah, that's exactly how to do it. And again, all of that is really laid out on the plan, but we're happy to help. And also join CabralSupportGroup.com, CabralSupportGroup.com. You'll get all of the step-by-step kind of answers from our health coaches. And they'll also send you over to our Candida and bacterial overgrowth FAQ page. It's probably 20 to 30 FAQs, frequently asked questions, and it answers all of these things. So hopefully that helps. And for sure, we'll make sure that you get all of your answers, all of your questions answered. That's it. All right, Donna is up next. Donna writes in, Dear Dr. Cabral support team, I listened to a recent podcast on cookware. In local stores, I saw ceramic nonstick cookware. Is that what is recommended? Because I wasn't sure about the nonstick coating. Also, I saw some spoons, turners molded from 100% bamboo, but also had a nonstick coating. Should those be totally wood instead? Respectfully, Donna. All right, Donna, so I'm going to erase your last name. I only like to use first names. Yes, we listed that. No, nonstick is not something we want. So typically nonstick means some type of chemical spray that does not allow the food to stick to the pan. Well, the problem with that is at the Mayo Clinic, I don't know anything except for the research I do, right? Because I'm not hooking my brain up to some orb at night and downloading everything, but I read a lot of research, right? Because these things matter to me and they matter for what I do, obviously, for work. But the big one was Teflon. So what happens is, even if it's non-aluminum or non-metal and they spray Teflon, well, it's still a problem because the Mayo Clinic 20 years ago was saying that this is a known cancer-causing agent. So let's look at all the ingredients. Is it nonstick? Is it a ceramic that is naturally nonstick? Well, that's a different story. Then that's okay. I look at glassware for cooking. I look at cast iron. I look at copper. Yeah, so those are all acceptable. And ceramic, those are all great. The bamboo, we just use straight bamboo spatulas in my house. Or we'll use copper, or we'll use some other acceptable thing as well. In ceramic, they actually make ceramic spatulas as well. My Boston accent came out there. I like to add the ERs to the end of things like spatula. So yeah, we just use straight bamboo for our stirs and our mixers, and we use, stainless steel. We use stainless steel as well, and that would work fine. So that will answer that. And also we answered this on the CabralSupportGroup.com. One of our amazing health coaches Caitlin Graft wrote up a whole post on that. And she does that typically every Tuesday. She creates a new post. So really, really grateful for those. All right, let's do one more today. And it's from Donna. And I don't know if it's the same Donna, but I'm happy to answer both questions. So this one says, "Dear support team, my doctor doesn't think I'm absorbing water very well since my skin is dry. My throat gets dry every night, throughout the night. I'm 5'6", I weigh 128 pounds. I drink about 72 ounces of water per day. If we do the math on that, that equates to about 9 glasses of water? Yes, 9 glasses of water. I work out. I eat a Dr. Cabral clean diet. I've done the 7-day detox, the 90-day candida and bacterial overgrowth cleanse, followed by the 2 supplements to seal up the gut wall, the healthy belly, and she said she forgot the other one, but it's the, so we recommend the daily probiotic support and the healthy gut support. The healthy belly is the last product in our candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol to help wipe out any H. pylori, bacterial overgrowth, and all that other stuff that lingers. She's also done a liver cleanse. She takes magnesium, vitamin C, vitamin D, good fish oil, and probiotic. Dr. Cabral recommended healthy fats, and I just started on his daily shake and vegetable powder, fruit and vegetable powder, called the Daily Fruit and Vegetable Blend. I use a countertop Berkey filter with our water. Any suggestions? Respectfully, Donna. Well, Donna, I mean, you're doing amazing, right? I mean, what more can I say? You're doing absolutely fantastic. I commend you, and you're a role model for the rest of us. So you seem to drink plenty of water. What am I going to recommend to absorb it better? All right, let's just cut right to the chase. So take that nice Berkey filter that you have, and when you pour out water into a glass pitcher or even a glass, stir it. So start to stir it, and add in a pinch of sea salt to taste, meaning like once you start to taste the salt, well, you've added too much, but add enough sea salt just to the point where you taste it, and then you can squeeze a lime in there. Okay, that's going to take care of your minerals. So you're good to go. You can also add the trace minerals. You're welcome to do that. That's great too. Just, literally go to stevencabral.com/podcast, type in trace minerals. You'll see the podcast and the recommendations I give there. All right. The other thing is start doing that fruit and vegetable blend and do the smoothie in the morning with your fruit and veggies in there. Now, you're really going to be able to absorb that water because it comes with all the minerals. On top of that, you're drinking 9 glasses of water. You're getting plenty of water. So let's forget about the hydration thing. Let's look at why is your skin dry besides water? Why does your throat get dry? 2 reasons. Skin can get dry because of lower thyroid. All right, so lower thyroid can make the skin dry. That's one. Poor absorption of fat. That's another. And the other is dry throat can be also a sign of sympathetic nervous system dominance. Dry eyes, dry throat, scratchy throat, all of those things because the body produces less mucus in the fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system, because mucus production is a parasympathetic nervous system based activity. What does all that mean? Well, you could run the thyroid adrenal hormone panel and actually see how stressed you are, right? You can actually see, is my thyroid low? Is my adrenal output too stressed? That would do it. You could certainly do that. You could also run the hair tissue mineral analysis to look at that as well. It wouldn't show you thyroid, but it would show you overall stress output. Okay. Why else can you get dry skin? Heavy metals. Sure, heavy metals is one. You could do the heavy metal detox. That's easy enough to do. You sound like you're totally into your health, which is amazing. So doing a heavy metal detox, like once every couple of years is great to do anyways. Or if you've been exposed to metals for whatever reason, such as having your mercury amalgams out, if you work in a nail salon, hair salon, any of those things, it's totally great to do. And then I would recommend taking a daily digestive enzyme. Take it with your lunch and dinner. No need to take it with a smoothie. Why? So that you can better absorb your fats, right? So that it contains lipase, and lipase digests and breaks down fats. So that will help. Overall, you're doing fantastic. So hopefully those small recommendations will allow you to get your body really just absorbing more water. And I think you'll be able to do that, no problem. So that will do it for today's second edition of the Cabral House Call. I hope that it helped. If it did, please feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could help. And do not forget to tune back in tomorrow because we want to start our week off right? Every single Monday, we want to listen to this show in the morning. We want to listen to that Mindset and Motivation Monday. It gets me excited for the week. I hope it gets you pumped up as well. Take care, everyone. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stevencabral.com/resources.